Hi guys, welcome to episode 64 of the Authentic Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, accredited coach CC Ojany-Bekhor. I teach leaders like you how to do well and be well. Today I want to talk about a lesser known but very common obstacle to success. We've all heard about the fear of failure. We've also heard about the fear of success. When we realize that, oh wow, our project, this big idea might actually take off and we inadvertently self-sabotage. We've heard about all those fears. But there's a lesser known fear called the fear of leaving people behind. So let me explain what this fear looks like. Say, for example, you and an old friend, you've been friends for a while, have gotten into the habit of complaining about your jobs. You've gotten into the habit of complaining about your bosses. But then you change things for yourself and you change jobs. You get a job with an organization that you actually love. You're having a great time with your new boss. The situation has changed for you. It can get a little awkward, to say the least, when you and that old friend get together and you realize that you no longer have the time or energy to complain about your work because you've placed yourself in a completely different situation. Perhaps you and your friend were complaining about employment in general, and then you went and did something about it. You started your own business, so now you're self-employed. And you're finding that you and this friend no longer have that issue in common because rather than being a disgruntled employee, you are now an empowered employer. Or maybe you're just no longer interested in doing some of the things you used to do when you were younger. Yeah, you have different interests. Perhaps you are now in a relationship and there are different things you're interested in doing. Perhaps you've become a parent. There are different things you're interested in doing now. You have different priorities. Maybe you and this person used to complain about how broke you were, but you've turned things around with your finances and you're no longer broke. So you don't want to have those conversations anymore. The fear of leaving people behind is an interesting phenomenon, to say the least. You might find that you don't have the stomach to say to this old friend, you know what? I'm no longer interested in talking about this stuff. My situation has changed. You might find yourself pretending when you catch up with this person or speak with them on the phone. The fear of leaving people behind is this phenomenon whereby we start to feel guilty when we recognize that we have outgrown a certain relationship. We start to feel bad because we know that this person is a good person. And by the way, it's not just with friends, it's also with family members. I've spoken to people who have felt that the things that their parents prioritize, the things that matter to their parents, are so different to the things that matter to them. They have big goals, big dreams, and their parents just want to, gossip about what the neighbors are doing or complain about this relative or that other relative. Yes, I have spoken to people who find that sometimes their relationship with their own parents can get very awkward once they realize, wow, I now have very different interests and priorities than my parents. Conversations with mom and dad are no longer inspiring or that interesting to me. It's tough. It's tough. To call it awkward is an understatement. It can be downright uncomfortable and sometimes even draining spending time with this person now that you've changed. Here's the thing. If we choose to remain our old selves instead of embracing our new selves, we are stunting our growth. We are denying the fact that we are expanding, that we are elevating. And when we do this, we start becoming resentful. We start dodging people. We start not picking up their phone calls. We start making up excuses about why we can't spend time. And that adds more strain to the relationship. So, if this is something you're going through or something you've been through in the past, what can you do? Here's the thing, guys. It helps to have a courageous conversation with this person, to candidly let them know that you've changed, your interests have changed. You are no longer in that situation that you used to be in together. And it's really important to not be patronizing. It's really important to not come off as you believe you're now better than the other person. It's not about that. It's simply about speaking your truth. You've changed. You have different priorities, different challenges now, different goals now. And you can even offer to help your friend or this relative to change their lives around the way you have. Now, at this juncture, the person you're talking to has a choice. They can be happy for you. They can be inspired by you. But oftentimes, such a conversation doesn't go down well and the person gets upset. I've spoken to a lot of people that this has happened to. Here's the harsh and yet beautiful truth. Guys, not all relationships are supposed to last a lifetime. And that is quite okay. You see, where you're going, there are other people. The level you're operating at, there are people operating at a higher level. And as you grow and as you learn and as you elevate yourself, you will meet those people at that higher level. I remember many years ago being candid with my very first coach and saying to her, I'm afraid of ending up alone. I knew I could be successful. I knew I had it in me. But I was afraid of losing friends. I was afraid of ending my relationship with the man who's now my husband. Thankfully, that didn't happen. And that was the advice my coach shared. She said, Cece, where you're going, there are always other people. So the fear of ending up alone is an irrational fear. It's really, really important to not stunt your growth process in the name of some misguided loyalty you have to an old friend or a relative. I like to say to people that to know who your real friends are, it's not just about who's with you when the going gets tough. It's also about who's with you when you're happy, when you're shining, when you're soaring. Are these people happy for you? Or are they not? So the fear of leaving people behind is a very, very real fear. And I want to invite you to not allow it to stop your continued growth. Not all relationships are meant to last a lifetime. It's important to give thanks for the relationship while it lasted. You learned a lot from it, you learned a lot from the other person, and hopefully they've learned a lot from you. Lots of great memories. But now it's time to continue growing. And remember, where you're going, there are other people. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I hope this episode has been insightful, and I hope you can deal courageously with any fears that present as obstacles to success, including the fear of leaving people behind. To learn more about how I help leaders like you can go to themainprotagonist.com, click on Contact Cece. Your message will come directly to me and I'll be in touch. I've also been sharing a lot more video content on platforms like Instagram. My handle is @coach_Cece Ojany. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Just look for Cece Ojany-Bekhor, Bekhor. Thanks as always for tuning in. Have yourselves a lovely, productive, courageous, and growth-filled week.